It's okay. It gives you some engagement. Hello, everybody. I want to welcome you to our live recording for the Ladies of Wealth podcast. I'm super excited to be here today. Now, before we get started, we're going to be talking about the top 5 ways to make money with real estate investing in 2026. And after that, I'm going to do the real estate 101 that I would have done last month. But before all that, if you know what this shirt means, I want you to drop it in the chat along with your Cash App, all right? Whoa. Hello there. Who is this?
Oh, I'm Ultra Nene.
Ultra Nene, and what do you have for us today? Make sure you're in the little one.
I have another one of these football affirmations.
Ooh.
It's just a little happy guy.
Happy guy, yeah.
And it says 55. Positivity makes the field shine brighter.
Positivity.
Positivity.
That's a new word.
Nope. We're not doing that. We're not doing that.
Tell everybody what that means to
you.
What does that mean to you?
It means if you are positive, then hang on. My mind is spinning.
It's because you're hungry.
Yeah.
Because Mama made dinner late.
Play better.
Okay. All right.
Something.
Well, with that, go ahead.
Visit me on Ultra Cubby at YouTube.
Okay. Yes, Ultra Cubby at YouTube. Again, if you know the
spell it right.
Hey, stop. Not cool. The first person to I don't know what I was going to say there. But anyway, if you know what my shirt means, make sure you drop what my shirt means and your Cash App in the chat, and then we'll send you a little something. But for tonight, we are going to be talking about the top 5 ways to invest in real estate in 2026. I'm very excited about that. And I'm getting all these weird things on my computer. So just bear with me for a second here. I can't seem to figure out why my computer is flashing at me. Okay, I've closed out everything. If you can hear me, give me some likes or loves because I'm starting to get a little antsy that maybe I did something wrong. Okay, if you can hear me, give me some likes and loves. I'm just closing some things out, trying to figure out what I did, y'all. What did I do? I'm just closing them all out. Okay, let's see if it'll stop blinking at me. It's plugged in, so I know we got plenty of plug. Okay, and where's my slide? There we go. Yay. Okay. All right, let's try that again, y'all. All right. I want to welcome everybody to our live recording for the Ladies of Wealth podcast. For those of you who are new to our live recording, we record every Thursday night live, and then we break it down into the podcast. Today we are going to be talking about the top 5 ways to make money in real estate in 2026. And in case you're new to me and my body of work, I'm JJ Conway. I'm a financial planner, wealth builder. I'm like your no nonsense big sister, right? That's what somebody else called me. They said I'm the auntie for my son and his classmates when it comes to money, right? So I'm your aunt. I'm your old auntie. Not old. We're only as old as we feel, right? But today, we're going to be talking about real estate. It's the third Thursday, so we're going to be talking about real estate, and we're specifically going to talk about what's working in 2026. Y'all, my feelings are a little bit hurt, y'all. My feelings are a little bit hurt because my favoriteest ways to invest in real estate all these years are not the best ways to be investing in real estate in 2026. I'm still going to do them because I like them, but it's really not the most effective ways. And so we're going to talk about what's working and what isn't working as we are seeing into the new year. Okay. If you scroll social media, y'all, social media makes you think everybody's making money with short-term rentals, Airbnb and vacation rental by owner and all that. You know, everybody makes you feel like they're all buying like 50 doors overnight on the internet, sight unseen, right? Like, oh my goodness. Or you know, they're doing this super cool new thing called creative financing. Look, y'all, creative financing, I learned about creative financing in my dad's real estate investment course. Now, come on now. They don't even explain what it means. They just make it sound cool. So you buy their class. So you'll stop your scroll and watch their video. But we don't build wealth on vibe, right? We build wealth with strategy. We don't build wealth on emotion. We build wealth with strategic thinking, with visualizing and planning, and still having fun, but strategic fun. All right. So today I'm going to walk you through the 5 most popular real estate strategies that investors are using right now. And more importantly, I'm going to explain why they're working in this season with this economy and with the situation we are in. Okay. Now, before we jump into those strategies, I want to level set everybody. Okay. 2026 is not what we thought would be. Okay. And it's also not where we've come from. There's no more pandemic panic buying. All right. It's very hard to find zero interest money. We're not going back to interest rates being 1.9%, 2% again for a while. Okay. This isn't what was projected to happen with the housing prices skyrocketing. They were starting to, but the interest rates kind of curbed some of that. All right. What we're seeing right now in 2026, early indicators for 2026, we are actually seeing more inventory in many markets, which means that investors as buyers have more negotiation power. Okay. But it also means that the banks and the lenders are doing what we call tighter underwriting. So they're not making as many exceptions as they might be, because right now so many more people are a risk. So this is an interesting thing. The prices are coming. The prices are stabilizing some. Okay. The interest rates are coming down a tiny little bit. Okay. There's more and more inventory. So that means there's more houses on the market longer. Okay. But people are struggling. People are struggling. They're having a hard time buying retail properties. They're having a hard time getting loans. The interest rates are astronomical. Now. If you are my age or older, and yes, I am older than I look. If you are my age or older, you remember when interest rates were way more than they are right now. Like when I bought my first house, oh, y'all, that interest rate, I forget what it was, like 10%. It was a lot. It was a lot, but we were so happy. Oh, me and Phil's father, we were so happy to be in a house because neither one of us had ever lived in a house before. So we bought that thing, and we bought it in a good neighborhood too, with a swimming pool in the back. And we spent too much money on that house, y'all. We spent way too much money on that house. But we were 2 captains in the Air Force with no kids. Oh, you better. And then somebody had the nerve. I'm getting off track, but I'm gonna say it. Somebody in that neighborhood when we were looking had the nerve to tell us that we couldn't buy in that neighborhood. No, you're not gonna tell us what we're not gonna do. We bought the best house on the block, y'all, and it was really, really nice. Now, don't do that. Don't let your emotion dictate what you buy. Don't let your ego dictate what you buy. You're going to hear that a lot tonight, okay? Don't let your emotion, don't let your ego dictate what you buy. And please, sir, please, ma'am, do not buy the biggest house on the block unless you just want it, because it was a nice house. I ain't even going to lie. I had a whole fitness center. I had all my stuff, all my books. I had, them library wall. Oh, y'all, loved it. Okay, anyway. People are having trouble buying property, but there's property to be bought. So what's happening is it's creating a better situation for real estate investors who know what they are doing. It's not a good situation for reckless investors who went and took a quick class off of YouTube. I went to YouTube University. We brag about that like it's such a big, wonderful thing. But you know what I hear when I hear you went to YouTube University? I hear you learned the hard way. You got a little bit of insight from somebody who polished off all of the things they did for social media. And instead of spending $1,000 to bring somebody in who knows what they're doing in the market you're investing in, you lost probably $10,000 or $20,000 because you went to YouTube University. And I know, I'm broadcasting to YouTube. I love YouTube University, but I don't want you to play funny with your money. I want you to do things strategically, okay? We're going to talk a little bit more about that. Right now in the market, the investors who are making money, they're being disciplined. They're not just willy-nilly out there, and they're not being desperate. I have seen a rise in desperate investors. Okay. I've seen a rise in desperate investors. Oh my goodness. The good deals have dried up. And as soon as something halfway decent come along, they just snap it up, even though they're almost paying retail price, even though it's got mold and who knows what else going on. Look, y'all, buying an investment property is like dating somebody. Don't just take the first piece of man that comes along. All right. You want to be strategic about that thing because you want to end with more money in your pocket, not less. All right. Ooh, y'all, that's a sound bite. I need to extract that. Okay. Real estate investors in 2026, they're not generally just chasing one magic hack. Okay. So there's a couple of strategies that right now are working in a slower, somewhat more negotiable market, okay, and they are looking for ways to get around the financing friction that a lot of people are experiencing right now. The financing friction of it's harder to get a loan, the loans cost more, and the policies have made it even more difficult, okay? And so when you look at we're going to talk about some investor surveys, both of RCN, I think it is, and Bigger Pockets. When you look at the data and what active investors are actually talking about every day, there's 5 of the 20 that I usually talk about at the beginning of the year. There's 5 methods that are really rising to the top right now. And so we're going to talk about those strategies. Now, let me pause for a quick second. I'm going to talk about all of them after I talk about these 5, okay? Because these 5 is what I was supposed to talk about today. And all of them I was supposed to talk about last month, but y'all might remember my auntie passed and I skipped a couple lessons, okay? So I went home and then I extended my trip and then I lost my wallet. So no, that wasn't happening. I could have taught a class, but it would not have been my excellence of quality, all right? So, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the strategies today. And if you don't know what they are, stick around because I'm going to cover them all as we record for the next episode. We're going to do that after we talk about the top 5 strategies. All right. So number 1 in the top 5 strategies that are working in 2026 is landlording. That's where you buy and hold a rental. You buy a property, you hold on to it, you rent it out, and it makes more money for your pocket. Okay. That's what it's supposed to do. If you do it right, that's what it's supposed to do. Okay. Right now, if I had to pick one default strategy of 2026, it's still buy and hold. Okay. And so there was a RCN Capital winter 2026. Wait, let me make sure I say this right. Okay. There was an RCN Capital winter 2026 survey. Okay. And they surveyed all these investors. So we're going to refer to that survey a couple times. All right. Buy and hold for rentals was the most common primary investing type people were looking to do. So you're going to want to buy it, rent it, hold it. Okay. And so this is very popular because right now cash flow matters. Now we had some frenzy years where everything was just, going up and up and up, and people were banking on appreciation. Others were banking on the market crashing and then being able to snap up a lot of things. But right now in 2026, what's most important is cash in your pocket. That's why I like being known as the queen of cash flow. I am huge on making sure you have more cash in your pocket. I don't care how expensive or luxurious the property is. If you are losing money every month, unless you are out of debt with a paid for house and you have money to just throw away like that, I don't want you losing money. Now, if you make $100,000 a month and you're losing money on a $60,000 home, well, okay, but you really shouldn't be because you should have just bought it. Anyway, we're not shooting SHOULDING on people around here, but I just, okay. Anyway, smart investors right now are looking for income. They're leaning back into cash flow as conditions improve, which means you got more inventory in the market, and then you got more negotiating room for the investor. Okay. The rates are starting to ease a little bit, not as much as I'd like, but bigger pockets frames 2026 as just a big tailwind for cash flowing deals. All right. And I'm starting to see that myself, not in the markets that I personally want to invest in. It's still difficult for me to make a cash flowing deal. And it's like, if I can't make a cash flowing deal, I'm not making it. All right. So what strong investors in 2026 are doing, they are really making sure they understand their vacancy rates and incorporating that. One of the biggest mistakes an investor makes with buy and hold properties is thinking, oh, if I do all this stuff right, I'm going to make $100 of cash flow every month. They're not planning because they didn't buy it in cash. If you'd have bought it in cash, you'd be making $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 in cash flow every month. But you're like, oh, well, I'm sophisticated. I don't want to tie up my money. I'm going to use other people's money. Yeah, you're going to lose your money trying to use other people's money. But you want to make sure, if you're going to do this, that when you do your planning, you're making sure you account for vacancy rates, making sure you account for the skyrocketing cost of insurance. My goodness, insurance doubled last year for me, and it's still going up, up, up. I mean, you can shop around companies, but it's still, you might get some deals, but it's still going up and up and up, right? You also want to budget for realistic maintenance. These are the three biggest things that I find that investors don't plan for. They look at the deal on paper and they think, oh, I got $500 every month going to go in my pocket. You have 1 month of vacancy, that's $2,000. That's like 4 months of profit. Poof, just gone. Okay. Which leads me to my next thing. If you're going to buy and hold, you want to make sure you've accounted for these. You've done the calculations. Personally, please, if you can, just buy the property. Okay. Just buy it. Use your 401. I'm not your 401. Use your self-directed IRA or something like that. Okay. Anyway, make sure you're really accounting for vacancy. Make sure you're accounting for insurance. Make sure you're accounting for actual maintenance costs, and make sure you're planning for them to go up and up. Okay. And because of all of that, I really want to emphasize having reserves. I remember, was it 2 or 3 summers ago, we replaced the air conditioning in my house and 2 of the investment properties. And those investment properties, y'all, that money goes into my IRA. I can't touch that money yet. I am older than I look, but I'm not that old yet. And I was just like, oh, Lord, have mercy. And so, to go through the process takes a little while. And if you want to get something done, on a 104, 110 degree day, you got to just get it done. And so there's, definitely want to have some reserves on hand. We are not doing emotional investing. We are doing mathematical investing. The math is not hard. What's hard is keeping our emotion, our frustration, our desperation out of our real estate investing. I want you to say it with me. I am not going to invest emotionally. I'm going to invest strategically. All right. And if you want stability, you got to have a foundational strategy that's going to put money in your pocket and account for the ups and downs and the ebbs and flows of the real estate market. Okay. If it doesn't cash flow, you shouldn't close. I like that. If it doesn't cash flow, somebody put that in the chat. If it doesn't cash flow, you shouldn't close. All right. Ooh, yeah. All right. That's our first strategy. It's the top one listed in the surveys of a couple different investor sites that I did, and the RCN is it Central, the survey that they did amongst all these real estate investors. Okay, so that's number one. The number two kind of surprised me. I kind of wonder if this is what people were doing, but they're slowing down. Okay, but it's actually flipping. I'll be honest with you, I was surprised. I was surprised that flipping was still high up on the list, but actually 33% of investors are still flipping. It's still alive. Here's the difference. Sloppy flipping is out. Sloppy flipping is out. We see that 33% is the 33% of surveyed investors cite fix and flip as their primary strategy. But the thing is, it's the tone. While flippers are somewhat more optimistic, the conversation is about the tighter margins. You're not making as much money in the flip that you were making before. You've got higher holding costs now. And because of those things, you really need cleaner buys. I don't know if some of y'all have been with me for a while. Y'all might remember like 10 years ago, I was like, you know what? I shadowed one of our investors for a day, and every one of her properties ended up needing about $50,000 to $60,000 of repair. The one that looked good, they needed to redo some rooms. The one that didn't look so good, they needed to strip down to the studs and rebuild. But both of them were like 50, 60, and another one was 60, and another one was 70. I said, you know what? I'm gonna cut this even. I'm just gonna estimate 60, and that's what I did. Just estimated 60. I was like, okay, I'm just going to assume I'm going into this. I don't always know what I'm doing. I'm still inexperienced, but I'll tell you what, if that lady's been investing for 20 years and almost all her properties is about 60,000 when it looked good or didn't look good, I'm just going to assume $60,000 worth of repairs. And I'm going to make my calculations based on $60,000 worth of repairs unless I see something that really drastically needs more, or one of my mentors is able to come with me and they see something. That worked great 10 years ago. That does not work in this economy. We really have to tighten things down so we can have a cleaner buy. You got to buy below the market. Okay. You got to buy below the market. You cannot, if you're going to flip a property, honestly, I feel this way about buy and holds too, but especially with the flip, you got to buy below the market. You cannot plan on appreciation. Okay. During the height of COVID, all the properties were going up, 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 up. And we were recommending if you think you're going to need your cash from your property in the next 5 years, go ahead and sell it just to be safe. Now, for a lot of people, that was very good advice. There are some people who are in markets that still continue to skyrocket in cost, like where I live right now. That would not have been good advice. But a lot of people in larger markets, those prices have come down 25%. So, if you had a $500,000 house and you sold it then and made $500,000, you might have tried to sell it last year or the year before and only made $400,000 or $375,000. Well, right now it may be climbing back, but it's not climbing as fast. And so you got to buy below the market so you have some profit margin, and you got to be accurate with your budget. This is not a season for real estate investors to go on YouTube University and go buy their first deal with no experience and no mentor. I'm telling you that right now. I normally don't push stuff that costs money. Okay. I like people to do things as cheaply as possible. And I'm a big fan of free 99. The biggest thing I usually tell people, pay $20 a month to be part of a good real estate investment group, right? This is not the time to be free and cheap on this. You want to go grab somebody who knows what they're doing so they can mentor you, so you can buy below the market, get a clear estimate of the budget that you're going to need, and be able to exit that property quickly. The ones who are succeeding at flipping in 2026, they are treating it like a business, not a hobby. All right. They know their after repair value. They know their rehab numbers. They know their holding costs. Holding costs. This is something people forget about. You're renovating that property, but guess what? You got to pay every month. If you didn't buy it in cash, you got to pay interest. Even if you did buy it in cash, somebody's got to run electric. I learned that the hard way with the first rehab I did on my own. I had the contractor show up and they got ready to work and they're like, we have no electric and no water and no nothing. And I was like, ooh, I wasn't trying to pay for all that. And never mind. I'm not going to say what I was about to say because I don't want that soundbite on the internet. Unless an investor already has some significant experience in that market, whether or not you've done real estate investing, maybe you've done a property appraisal, or maybe you've done home repair, or maybe you're a general contractor or something like that where you have some experience. Unless you already have experience, I'm telling you right now, so wise investors are not listening to the ego tell them I can do it all myself. Instead, they are not afraid to bring in a more experienced real estate mentor. That $500 that you pay for a mentoring fee could profit you $50,000 or more in a deal by showing you what to do and, more importantly, what not to do. Ooh, y'all, I still remember I ended up keeping it. I was intending to flip it, but I ended up keeping it. I still remember the first time I paid some. This was years ago, and $200 was a lot of money. It still kind of is a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money in the real estate mentorship game, right? But I remember when I paid somebody $200 for her lease and to walk through my property with me. I'm telling you, she saved me thousands of dollars because she knew what I didn't know, and she knew that market intimately. And so flipping can still create strong returns. But right now in 2026, flipping rewards discipline. You need to be disciplined. Skip the drama. Skip the glitter and the gold and the glitz and the glam, and do what has to be done to get that property turned around quickly to a retail buyer so you can make your profit. Okay. All right. Strategy number 3 on our top 5 strategies is wholesaling. Now, y'all know I love wholesaling. Let me fix that up. I don't love wholesaling. I don't think I'm particularly great at wholesaling, but you know what I am? You know what they say, those who can't teach? Great at wholesaling, but I am very good at teaching wholesaling. And you know what else? I love wholesalers. I love people to find me deals. And wholesaling is still a top method. It's still a top method for people to make money in real estate, especially if you are looking for people especially if you are working with investors that really have more time than money. Okay. And if you are a person who really needs to make the quick money and you don't have a whole lot of money in your pocket, wholesaling is for you. Okay. That same RCN survey says that wholesaling is at about 20% as a primary strategy that investors are doing in 2026. Okay. Actually, I think their survey was in December of 2025 with the projections for what you were going to do in 2026. Okay. The reason wholesaling is attractive is because it's capital light. Like, in fact, depending on how quickly you build trust with people, you could actually get started doing real wholesaling with as little as $10 to $100 out of pocket. Now, I don't know if y'all remember like Carlton Sheets and some of the old heads when it comes to real estate investing. Back in the day, they were buying houses on let me rephrase that. Back in the day, they were getting contracts for $10 out of pocket, because you can't have a contract without consideration. Consideration is money. So in order to have a valid contract, you got to pay the other people some, right? But they were routinely buying houses, buying the contract to buy the house for $10, and then they were turning around and selling that contract to an investor. That's all wholesaling is. So you secure a property under contract, okay? You assign that contract to another investor. You either sell them the contract or you sell them the LLC that let the contract, okay? And then you collect a fee. And that fee is equivalent to how much time you've saved the investor and how much they can expect to profit from the deal. So the last house that I bought through a wholesaler, and some of you know that it's been a little while since I've done so because I have really been doing more tax sales in my self-directed IRA. I haven't been doing as many flips and I haven't been doing as many buy and holds, okay? But the last time that I bought a house through a wholesaler that is in my portfolio, it cost me $3,000. Do I have a problem paying the guy who found it, who actually was one of the mentors, one of my real estate mentors? Do you think I have a problem paying him $3,000 for finding that deal for me? Like, I put, I think, $11,000 into the property to get it to market, right? And that property's made me over $100,000 in my IRA, right? So don't come at me with your hand out, all right? I can't get to that money anytime soon. But look, even if I could, don't come at me with anybody. But seriously though, think about that for a second. Would you pay $3,000 to somebody who found you a $3,000 house that only needs $11,000 or $12,000 or $15,000 worth of work and is going to make you over the next 3 or 4 years $50,000? You rent it out for $1,000 a month, take out what you already made, rinse and repeat. Can you do that all day long? Yes. Okay. This is why wholesaling works. Some investors have more time than money. Other investors have more money than time. You can serve somebody if you are an investor that has more time than money by doing the research in your neighborhood, finding properties that were good candidates to be sold at a discount. Connect those properties with an investor who is like busy, but whoop, good deal. Yeah, let me look into that real quick. Right? You've already done the legwork. You've already locked it down with a contract. The investor knows what they're getting, what they're paying. And if you are good at estimating the repairs, the investor also can see what they're going to need to put into it. I mean, of course, you always got to go check it yourself, right? But still, it's a wonderful, wonderful exchange of money. And that's why it works so well. Wholesaling works well in markets. That works. Oh, let's see what we have. Some comments over here. All right. Yeah, we like seeing that. Okay. Hey there. All right. I love wholesalers. I'm not very good at wholesaling myself, but I do love wholesalers. Okay. So let's talk about where that works. Okay. Right now, wholesaling, you're really creating a deal out of thin air. Okay. You're not wholesaling a property that's listed by a realtor in the MLS. You're wholesaling a for sale by owner. You're wholesaling a vacant property by marketing, to the owner. You're finding deals that way. You're creating the deal. And so the best candidates to find the juiciest deals in wholesaling is going to be distressed sellers. Okay. You're looking for investors that are actively buying. And our wholesaling course, we're going to talk about wholesaling and driving for dollars next month. And we actually walk through how to find active investors, because you don't want to waste your time with people who are just tire kickers. Okay. I have some stories about that, but we don't want to do that today. Okay. You want to work in markets that have inventory challenges, right? So people need to sell, but there's reasons it's hard for them to sell, and investors want to buy, but it's hard for them to find those juicy gems. Okay. So you can stand in that gap. All right. Now, the shift that we have to make in 2026 is, y'all, some states are tightening the rules around wholesaling. Y'all remember I talked in the past about foreclosure consulting and how a lot of states started tightening that down. Like if you advertise to people who are distressed sellers, which means they're not paying their mortgage on time, and you market to them and you say, oh, I can help you get out of foreclosure. I can help you avoid foreclosure. I can help keep you in your house. In some states, if you use that kind of language, you cannot buy the house. You are effectively wholesaling that house to another investor. Okay. And now we're seeing that same tightening of the regulations around the practice of wholesaling itself. In fact, in Florida and some other states, you have to be very, very careful how you proceed, because wholesaling isn't even allowed. Okay. So this is not the Wild West anymore. Okay. Wholesalers are navigating a more heavily regulated environment. Okay. You're going to have more disclosures, licensing requirements. You have to be careful what you say, because in some jurisdictions, you say the wrong thing and now you're getting in trouble for practicing real estate brokerage without a license. Okay. I'm not trying to scare you. This is not stuff to be scared of. This is stuff to make profit with, because it scares away everybody else. Okay. But if you are just getting started and you have no experience, it is essential you connect with a local real estate investing group, a local one. These national ones are great, but if they don't have somebody who's in your backyard where you want to invest, you're not going to get the protection you need to help you navigate these pitfalls. You need someone who can lead you around the pitfalls and give you the wisdom of their experience. Okay. At the very least, if you're going to do wholesaling, you got to understand how contracts work. Okay. If there are some things that you need to disclose that your state requires, you got to learn what those are. And then you got to do it. You got to disclose properly. Okay. You got to operate legally. So where I live in Texas, you cannot rent to own. Well, you cannot do a lease option. I'm sorry. You can do rent to own, but you have to be very careful about it. You can't do a lease option. A lease option is a creative financing strategy I will talk about later tonight. And if you're listening to this on the Ladies of Wealth podcast, check the next episode, okay? Or the one after that. I don't know which of the 2 episodes it'll be on. But that technique, you can only have them on a lease for 6 months, or you have to put them on the deed. And a lease to own a lease option is not the same as owner finance. See, owner finance, you're buying the house from me. Lease option, you're leasing it from me with the option to buy it at a predetermined price to help you plan. That's 2 different animals, right? In Texas, is like, you too many cheatings, too many cheaters, too many cheats. I don't know the right way to say what I'm trying to say, but too many people were getting scammed. All right. And so you have to understand it. So different investors do it different ways. There are some investors that I know here in Texas who they only do 6-month leases. There are other investors in Texas who use other creative strategies to get around that, but still be legally compliant. Okay. And so all those things, like when I moved here, I was across the border in Louisiana. Louisiana does real estate differently than Texas. I got my start in real estate investing in Maryland, and then I moved to Virginia. Every state is different, and every parish or county is different. Every jurisdiction is different. Every country is different. Okay, some countries you can only buy the property for 99 years, then it goes back to the state. Ooh. All right. Wholesaling rewards hustle and systems. Understanding your pricing, understanding what needs to be done in the property, having a system to have properties come into your database, as well as having investors to come to your database, and a way to connect them together. Those are the systems that you need. It's a wonderful, wonderful technique, but your integrity in this area is non-negotiable. We are too cute to be in jail, right? So let's do it the right way. All right, that was strategy number 3. Strategy number 4. I can see I'm getting late on this one. I really thought I could do this one in 25 minutes. So if you're listening to me as part of the Ladies of Wealth podcast, if I don't break this up into 2 episodes, please forgive me. I'm getting better about having shorter episodes, but I don't know that I want to break this one up because it's such a good topic, okay? I'm getting better, though. Just pray for me. Just pray for me. All right. The strategy number 4, y'all, I got a love-hate relationship with this one. It's called private lending. Private lending can be really effective for certain ladies of wealth and a few good men who are in their wealth era. You've worked really hard. You've got these retirement funds. You've provided for yourself, and now's your time to enjoy what you have. But at the same time, you know, because you're wise, that you should still be aggressive in your investing, even in your retirement era, right? And so private lending is actually having a moment in 2026. Who knew it would be having a moment? But yes, because what private lending does is it delivers the loans and the money that's needed for people who can't traditionally get them in this economy. And the reason that people who are in that phase of life where they have the money in their IRA and they're able to direct it in however they want, the reason it's great for them is they're basically like sitting on a capital stack, right? I've got this one out, this one out, this one out, this one out, this one out. And they're not dealing with rehab. They're not dealing with contractors that don't want to respect them because they're women. They're not dealing with tenants and toilets and 3 a.m. calls. Okay. So they're still making money on their money. And it's working right now in a economic situation where traditional financing is not only more expensive, harder to get, but it also takes a longer time. Private lending can get in there as quick as both parties can move. Okay. Bigger Pockets community conversation on 2026 private money trends. It basically talks, there is a steady demand for private money, for flips and rentals and what they call the BRRRR method. Now, Bigger Pockets, and I got a blog on Bigger Pockets. I'm very happy to be a pro member on Bigger Pockets. I really love the website and the advice and the connections I made on Bigger Pockets. But we disagree a little bit on this strategy. Their BRRRR method is buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. Okay. And so I got to go on record on just saying, as much as I love Bigger Pockets, I'm not a fan of the refinance of part of the BRRRR method, because I, as a financial planner, I see too many investors get into big trouble with all these loans, especially when multiple properties come up vacant at the same time. So for those of you who don't understand the method, what they're basically saying is you buy a property, you rehab it, get it up to retail value, you rent it out at retail rates. Now you've got it rented. You take that lease, you go to the bank, you refinance, you pull your money out of that property. Now that property's got a loan on it. You take that equity that you had in it, and you put that money on another property. And then you repeat. You've put that money on another property. You rehab that property, you rent it out, you go take that loan, that lease to the bank, and say, hey, let me refinance this. And now what happens is you got a whole bunch of properties daisy chained together based off of your initial input of cash, which some people use from private lenders. Some people like us, when we got started, we took out a home equity loan. Remember when I said I was $800,000 in debt? About 120 of that debt was consumer stuff like credit cards and vehicles and stuff. The rest of that was all those daisy chain properties together. And I do know people who have made big money in real estate using that method. But I know so many more who ended up in the dire straits that I ended up in. And I don't want anybody to go through that when you don't have to. Okay? I don't want anybody to go through that when you don't have to. So I am not a big fan of that method. I see too many investors who get in trouble with all those loans. Still, private lending, time-tested real estate strategy. It's currently being highlighted in multiple market outlook pieces, and they're all emphasizing that there's an opportunity here in this private real estate private real estate credit, because what's happening is there's inventory, there's property that needs to move, but it's so hard for people to get loans, and it's so hard for investors to get loans, that it's like, hey, stand in the gap. Private lending stands in the gap. Now, what it actually does, we're going to have a whole class on it, because I want you to make sure you know what you're doing and not doing when you go into private lending. I'm not a big fan of it, but it is a strategy that's working. So I want you to have a complete real estate investor education. Okay. I don't want you taken advantage of by people because JJ Conway didn't teach you something just because she don't like it. Okay. What private lending allows you to do. Now, I am not talking about private lending from the investor side. Okay. Private lending from the investor side, that's what they call when you go get a hard money loan. You're getting that from a private lender. Okay. When you go and you do an investor dinner and you tell people you can make 15% on my next deal, and they give you money to invest with your properties. They give you money. This is how we got started with Alan Cowgill's private lending class. You do a presentation. You explain how you're gonna make these investors money. You give them an above average interest rate. Okay. And then they lend to you. That they are the private lenders. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about not you receiving the money from them. I'm talking about you being the person who lends. Okay. So private lenders are basically funding other investors' deals. They're funding other investors' deals, and then they're earning interest. Yay, we like interest. Interest is like the reward for putting our money to work. Interest is like our money is going out into the world, and it's bringing more baby monies with it, and that baby money grows, and it makes more money and more money and more money and more money. I like more money, but I don't like you to be strapped by debt, okay? So I'm very antsy about even teaching this, okay? The cool thing about private lending, as opposed to other kinds of investments we might do, is your lending is secured by the real estate. You're not managing tenants. You're not swinging hammers. You're basically the bank. What? What? JJ, you're saying you would recommend lending for my retirement funds? I thought you were against that. Here's the thing, okay? This is one of those gray areas of scripture, right? Scripture tells me the best way to live is to owe no man. But it also says you're always going to have the poor with you. And here's some guidelines for lending to them so they don't get taken advantage of by other people who are going to be unscrupulous, okay? I will say biblical lending is not the same as what we see in the world right now. And I don't have time in this class to really explain it in detail. But for those of you who are interested, if I get enough people text me or PM me and tell me they're interested in a biblical lending class, then I will walk you through that. But let's just say that I wouldn't find today's world with today's investors, okay? While private lending, how do I want to summarize this? While private lending is my least favorite method for you, and I would honestly prefer you to skip this one and do joint ventures instead of true lending, this is a method that is gaining traction in 2026. So why is it so popular? Well, we've kind of covered that a little bit, but I just want to drive the point home. Traditional lenders are still cautious, and investors, they need money. They need money to turn the properties around. So private lenders can really earn some very attractive returns that are backed by the property without them having to do all the operational stuff with all the operational headaches, okay? But let's be clear about this. If you are going to pursue this, you got to be clear about your loan to value ratios. You got to understand how promissory notes work and how they don't work. You got to understand secured liens, how it helps you, how it doesn't help you, how you could get wiped by tax issues and other things. You got to understand how to protect against default. Okay, what happens if that investor doesn't know what they're doing or they stop paying you? Which leads to me to my last point on this. You have to know if you're going to do private lending. And again, I prefer joint ventures, but joint ventures, you still got to know this stuff. What makes a good deal? You got to know what makes a good deal because you cannot count on that investor to know what he or she is doing. They might get up and have a wonderful presentation. They might make it sound like they are just amazing. And we always do this and we always do that. And they ain't even done one deal yet. I have sat in people's investor presentations because we were all part of the same investor group and we supported each other to fill the room. You know, there's nothing worse than an empty room. So we all supported each other by filling the room. And I listened to the lies that people tell to get their money, to get other people's money out of those pockets. Okay. You got to know whether or not that deal is solid before you lend. Because this is not give your cousin money because he got a dream. This is structured investing. This is strategic investing. Okay. All right. Strategy number 5 in my top 5 ways to make money in real estate in 2026 is going to be kind of a catch-all, and that is creative finance. Okay. You might have noticed one common theme amongst a lot of the things that we're talking about today is the difficulty that people have getting a traditional loan for whatever reason. Okay. So when the deal won't underwrite with conventional debt, so like the people at the bank who run the calculations to make sure that you're going to be able to pay that loan back, make those payments, when that deal doesn't go through with the conventional method, you know, maybe the buyer's overcoming bad divorce debt, okay, but they've got a good payment history, but the bank doesn't see that because it just goes on credit report instead of manually looking at it, right? They call that manually underwriting. Or maybe somebody's here. We have a lot of this in Texas. Somebody is legally here to work, but they don't have a social security number because they are not a United States citizen. Our country. Now, this is, look, y'all want to change. No, I'm not going to get political, but I am going to say this from a financial standpoint. Y'all want to protect our country. Stop letting everybody from outside the country buy the country. You don't want to let people come in and work, but you don't have any problem with everybody buying up our real estate. I got a problem with everybody buying up our real estate. Now, no, I'm not going to get political on it, but I got a problem with that because guess what happens when somebody buys up enough of your real estate? The same thing that happens when somebody buys up enough of your company. They take over. And do I still have it here? No, I don't think I have it here. I think I took it to my office downtown. I got a book that talks about a specific demographic whose plan is to buy and use the laws that allow them to slowly and generationally take over our country. And I'm like, wow, I've already seen them taking over cities. It's a fearful thing, but you don't have, I'm saying all that to say, you don't have to be a United States citizen to buy United States property. And unlike other countries where they limit, like if I go to buy in another country, some countries limit how long I can own that land, and I can't pass it on to my kids. Okay. In some places, our country doesn't have any restrictions on that. But if you don't have a social security number, it's really hard to get a loan. So there are ways to work around that, which are creative financing strategies. Investors in 2026 are increasingly trying to structure the deal rather than abandoning it because there's so few deals right now. And so creative financing strategy, it's a great way to make a deal out of thin air when you didn't think there was a deal there. Wasn't trying to be a poet, but there you go. All right. Creative financing, again, it's a direct response. Is what makes it popular. It's a direct response to the affordability and the lending constraints that we are seeing in our economy, especially in the United States. I'm not speaking for any other countries. And so we're seeing that both in the investor communities like Bigger Pockets and also the media coverage. Okay. There's a lot of forum threads where people are talking about creative financing strategies like seller financing, owner financing, doing wraparound financing, assuming loans, which is getting harder and harder to do, finding an assumable loan, subject to and lease options. Okay. Now I'm going to do an overview of all those in our next episode. Well, actually, yeah. Well, we're at 50 minutes. Ooh, if you're listening to me as part of the podcast, so this one will need to be split into two episodes. So the next episode will start Real Estate Investing 101. If you are listening to me live on Thursday night, I'm going to record it after this, depending on the stamina of my little one and the stamina of my throat. Okay. But for now, understand that creative financing is growing in popularity because right now financing is the bottleneck. If the interest rates are coming down, but they're still ridiculous. And conventional loans, they are not easy and they're not quick. Okay. So smart investors are like, okay, how can I structure this deal creatively and differently? Creative financing, all these creative strategies to make a deal work. It works the best when there's some equity in the deal. The sellers have the equity and the sellers want speed, and the buyers understand what they can and can't do as far as contract law, especially in a wraparound situation. Now, again, we have a whole class on creative financing because to me, it's the sweet spot for a lot of investors who are in situations like I was in when I got divorced and I had all that debt. Me and my ex-husband got into this thing where like I couldn't refinance him I took all the property except one, and I took the bigger ones because I had the job and he wasn't working. He had just gotten a job, but he hadn't been working for very long. In retrospect, he probably shouldn't have been working at all. He probably shouldn't have got that job till after the divorce was final. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, but you know what? That's that ego again. That ego. You know what? His ego cost him a lot of money. Anyway, ooh. Okay, let me reset. Okay. There was no way I was going to buy a property. There's no way I was going to be able to qualify for us. I couldn't even qualify to unload that house. I couldn't qualify. I was supposed to, part of our divorce decree was I was going to refinance him out of that house. And y'all, I've stopped saying that I'm completely out of that $800,000 debt because of this house. But when I was filming and interviewing before, I always had a contract on it. I was gonna owner finance it to somebody, and then they would back out, and then this happened or that would happen, and just real life situations. Nobody was at fault or anything, but it was just like a constant thing. And I kept thinking, well, by the time this airs, that house will be sold, and I will be completely out of debt. But I couldn't sell it. I couldn't refinance it. The only thing I could do was was owner financed. So when you're in a crazy situation like that and you've got a buyer who's in a similar situation, they pay their rent on time every time for years, but they can't qualify to go get a loan. It's a perfect marriage for a creative financing strategy. But you got to understand what you're doing. And I'm going to say this, both as I'm a financial planner, but I'm not your financial planner unless you are my paid client. Okay. But your auntie, and for some of you, your pastor. All right. If you don't understand what you're signing, do not sign it. Okay. Because some of the biggest scams in real estate history come from this segment of funding called creative strategies. Creative does not mean careless. And if you're interested in a creative financing deal, bring it to our group coaching every first Tuesday. Bring it to a discovery or a private coaching with me, and let's talk about it. Okay. Woo, that was fun. That was the top 5. Now, here's some that didn't make the top 5, but I still think are worth watching. Okay. One is note buying. This is where I eventually want to get to. I want to get to where I can help people while also helping myself. So it's a win-win-win situation. Like I'm able to buy a note that someone that's not performing for someone else or another or for a bank. So that takes that bad debt off theirs. I can restructure it for whoever's in the situation to make it more affordable for them. And then I can profit for how I restructure it, because now instead of not paying $1,000 a month, they're willing to pay me $750 a month, right? So for me, that's a win-win-win, and I love the win-win-win. Okay, and so, but it's not right now. What I'm seeing in the investor chatter is that it's just the pricing and the dynamics. It's just not where it needs to be for the bulk. Okay. Which means if you've already been doing it, I wouldn't stop doing it, because you probably got some solid relationships and you're probably able to get the good deals when they come along. Okay. Another one that's surprisingly not as strong as I would have thought was apartments and commercial. Still huge categories, but in order to be the most popular things, that's something that a lot of investors are doing. And apartments and commercial right now, that really is going to depend on your level of investor sophistication, like how experienced you are, how nuanced you are, how connected you are to be able to navigate that commercial space, those apartment rules and regulations. It's also going to depend on your access to capital and your investment landscape. So what I mean by that is, where I live, commercial and apartments are going strong. In other markets, not so much. But where I live, if you put up an apartment, it is almost immediately rented out, because we have a big college here, and that college is growing and growing and growing, and there's a need for housing. There's really a need for single family housing as well. But there's a lot of let me see, how do I want to say it? The community has disincentivized people from building the single family homes that we really would need to grow the community, because we're still lagging in growing our infrastructure. So that's why the apartments, and I don't understand why the apartments are better than the single family houses. I'm still learning all that stuff, right? But that's just the market I'm in. Okay. Other markets, commercial is in fact, I was back in one of my markets that I love to invest in, because I know it so well and I can invest it from a distance, because I know it like the back of my hand. I was just happened to be out there. I go out there every couple of months just to check on things and renew all my all my business licenses and all that stuff, and pay my taxes and all that stuff. I've noticed so many commercial properties are practically empty. Like if you were interested, now's the time, and you had cash, now's the time to get in there and swoop them up. Okay. But it's just not it's not profiting the most for the inexperienced investor in 2026. Okay. Doesn't mean it won't work for you, especially since the last one in the bottom of my list is actually one of my favorites. I got my feelings hurt. I got my feelings hurt that this was off the top 5 list. In fact, it was on the things to avoid list in the survey. I was like, tax liens, tax sales, and in Louisiana, tax certificates. This one is cooling off, but honestly, I still like tax sales, especially if you live in rural or small towns where it's different. how do I want to say it? It's hard to get people to sell to you. Can I say it like that? In a small town, when you go into a larger market, everybody's dollars are green. You make an offer in the name of an LLC, people aren't taking the time to look up who you are. Do you have the financing? Do you have the terms that seller needs? Is the LLC already made? Done. When you're in a rural community or a smaller community, they want to know who you are. They want to know where you're from, where your kin are from. And that really all translates to, can we trust you and do we like you? Do we want you to succeed? Or do we have a vested interest in you not succeeding? So this is one of the reasons I really like tax sales, because my county doesn't do online tax sales. But there are some very nice nearby counties, and you hop across the border to Louisiana, almost all the parishes in Louisiana do online tax sales. Electronic sales is one of the best things you can do for those of us in marginalized people groups who still want to build our wealth, but we find that there are a lot of people who will not work with us, sell with us, give us the deals. Okay. So I'm still a big fan of tax sales. I'm also a big fan of foreclosure sales, which did not make the list this year. It was also in the bottom of stuff to stay away from, which I was surprised at. But you know what? It's happened out that way. They're not having the impact that a lot of people thought. 5 years ago, when we were in the throes of COVID and nobody was paying on their loans, I mean, everybody was worried we were going to have this huge crash, because you might remember the banks, they made it so easy too, y'all. They made it so easy. Oh, we're just going to give you a loan. We're just going to temporarily pause your payments. And they didn't tell you that. I told you, if you listen to me, you didn't get caught up in this, but they didn't tell you that they didn't modify your loan. They just paused your loan. So when COVID was over and everything went back to normal, you owed a year's worth of payments, and everybody was expecting that was going to cause a huge rigmarole. But we might be complaining about high interest rates and high inflation, but let me tell you, the feds did their job to ease the expected impact of post-COVID foreclosures that everybody was expecting, okay? I mean, it's not off the table of foreclosures, but you're not hearing about it as bad as we were back when the original, when the last real estate crash happened, okay? The one that left me holding the bag, okay? So it's not very popular right now in 2026. I would still keep my eye on it if the idea of profiting while helping people and really rolling up your sleeves and getting into the trenches and being a foreclosure consultant is something that you want to do, or if you like the idea of buying foreclosures, I still wouldn't take it all the way off the table, but I don't know that I would learn that strategy right now, as I was saying last year. I really thought last year this was going to be the year we needed it, okay? I'm still probably going to teach on it just in case. All right. So overall, everything that I'm saying about the top 5 ways, top 5 ways to make money in 2026, what I really want you to hear, the theme of this year is to really structure your deals. We're not speculating. Okay. We're not planning on appreciation 20 years down the line. Okay. We're looking at cash flow over clout. We're not investing to brag on Instagram. We're looking at math over momentum. Okay. If I have deals that are making money, that's the deal I'm going to do. Not this showboating, this ego stroking that a lot of investors get caught up in. Okay. The people building wealth right now, they're not chasing trends. They're looking very carefully at their cash flow, their expected cash flow. They're looking very carefully at all the different variables, vacancy, maintenance, things like that go into profiting from real estate. They are building and maintaining cash reserves so that when something goes down, they can take care of it. Or so that when a great juicy deal pops up, they can just dump some cash on it and close quickly. That's still, oh, do I have my pen? I don't have my pen. I'm going to make some more of them. The Cash is King pen. So if you want one, send me a message. We'll send out a message if you're subscribed to my group. Cash is still king. Cash has always been king. Jesus is Lord, but cash is king when it comes to real estate. All right. And so you want to be strategic about your real estate in 2026, and you want to choose a lane, get good at it, get mentored at it if you need to be, and rinse and repeat. Okay. Wealth is not built by dabbling. All right. It's not built by playing around. It's not built by emotion, getting rah-rah, going to the back of the room and spend money you don't have on classes you're never going to listen to anyway. It's built by discipline and repetition. Rinse and repeat. Okay. So as we close out this series on the top 5 real estate strategies that are working in 2026, I want to ask you, I'd like you to tell me what strategy that we've talked about today aligns with the capital that you have access to, aligns with your risk tolerance and how risky and how risk averse you might be. How does it align? How do any of these align with your schedule, your temperament? Not every strategy fits every investor, and there's no prize for doing the most complicated deal. In fact, I'm the queen of complication. Like, I know how to complicate something. Like, I know how to make it more than it needs to be. I like the way my husband talks about it in the band director world. He says, he knows how to East Texas a band. Basically adding a whole bunch of stuff that nobody else cares about. Listen, when it comes to real estate investing, the goal is not to impress the internet. Okay. The goal is not to impress the internet. The goal is to build assets that are going to outlive you, that are going to represent generational, or as some people like to say, dynastic wealth. Okay. That's how we build wealth on purpose. All right. That's how we build wealth together. That's how we establish ourselves as ladies of wealth and a few good men. All right. All right. Now, if you've enjoyed this, I really hope that you will share it with someone else who needs clarity around real estate right now, especially if they've been burned before. I want you to bring them to me because I know what it feels like, and I know how to climb out of it, and I know how to turn it around and begin to prosper. Okay. And if you want deeper trading on structuring wealth wisely, please stay connected to the ladies of wealth. Okay. We're not chasing money. We position for it. All right. And I will see y'all next episode when we talk about 20 plus ways to make money in real estate investing. Yay. Okay. If you are watching me live, Thursday Night Live, I'm going to take a quick break to just get a drink and stuff, and I'm going to call up my slides for the Real Estate Investing 101. This is what I would have done. This is what I would have done last month, except I went home for my auntie's funeral, and then I extended my trip, and then I lost my wallet, okay? And so that's what we're about to do. I'm going to call up the slides. I know my little one is getting tired, so I will probably go through this a little faster than I normally do. Okay. Just give me a second to reset. Hold on. You're so snuggly. When I first wrote this class, you were just a little baby.
This class.
This one that I'm about to pull up. There we go. Yep. I wrote this class. Now, I had another version of it before you were a baby, before when it was just me and Bubby. Not right away. No. For those of you just joining us, I am about to get my little one settled for bed, and then we're going to go into debt-free real estate investing. We just finished our top 5 ways to make money in real estate in 2026, and now I'm going to do an overview of all the different ways that I recommend people get started in real estate investing. Just give me about a minute. All right, everybody. I am back and we are going to do our real estate investing 101 overview. Now, I apologize in advance to those of you who were expecting me to do my normal 3 hours of real estate investing 101. Okay, we just aren't going to be able to do that today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to beg your indulgence and your prayers, because of all the family, all the funerals that I've been attending, and all those kinds of things. I'm going to ask for your grace. And if you want to know more details than what I'm covering tonight, I'm going to encourage you to go out to my YouTube channel. Okay. I'm going to encourage you to go out to my YouTube channel and watch last year's version of this. It hasn't changed that much. Okay. The only thing that's changed in our training is that we have new announcements because we have new speaking engagements coming up. Okay. And so I think my little one might want to snuggle. So I'm just going to double beg your indulgence. If I can get back to the StreamYard screen, let's hide that. If I can get back to the StreamYard screen, I'm going to, oh, that's why I couldn't get to it. I was clicking the wrong thing. I'm just, let me just come on. Okay. It's just been a crazy season and my little one wants to snuggle. And so I really, that's not going to look cute. I can still teach, but for those, some of y'all remember when he was a baby, he would cry and cry and I'd have to pause the class and go get him and then nurse him. And I'd be teaching, nursing him. And then he would just snuggle and sleep. I guess he's just used to that. But I'm going to keep the slides on. If you want to see my smiling face, teach this. If you want more details, go out to YouTube. The last 2 years I've taught it, I think it was like 2.5 to 3 hours. Okay. And so we're not going to do that today. But if you are interested in the longer version, we can get you the longer version. Okay. If you have a question, I can get you into our group coaching and why does my, okay, as I was saying, we can get you in my group coaching, and I just realized instead of the group coaching, it's the link for Finally Write Your Book, which is one of my oldest classes and most successful classes that I have. So all this time I've been advertising that, and I'm not going to change it because you know what? It's late. Yeah, I appreciate y'all so much for being with me on this journey. And if you're listening to me as part of the Ladies of Wealth podcast, I appreciate you for being here. I'm going to try to get this down to one episode, which is really tough because usually I take like 3 hours to teach it, but I'm going to just hit the high points. Okay. And if I can get to my slides, let's see if I can get to my slides now. Okay, here we go. Some announcements. If you're not familiar with the class, I use this class as a fundraiser for our Global Youth Initiative. So if you screenshot anything, if you really like the class, please send us a donation, even $5. Not only are you helping us, but you're actually creating a shift in your energy. Okay, you're actually creating a shift in your energy with regards to money. When we let go of money and we let it go to bless somebody else, our hand is now open to receive. So you can PayPal, Cash App, you can Venmo, all of those things is Queen of Cash Flow. That's me. Okay. I do have 2 quick announcements today. We are I don't know how to say it. We've had some copyright issues, so the podcast has kind of been paused for a couple months. It's like there's always a reason to pause it, right? But we do have episodes that have been built. I just try to push them out, but we're trying to get the music and all the stuff correct. But you can now go out to ladiesofwealth.com and click on apply, and you can be on the podcast. Also, I want to give you 2 calls for speakers. We are going to have a Ladies of Wealth one-day mastermind in the end of May in Houston. It's going to be the weekend of 30 May. The time and the day, whether it's Friday or Saturday or Sunday or however we're going to do that, is to be determined. Okay, it's most likely going to be Friday, or it may be a shorter session on Saturday. but I'm kind of leaning towards a full day during the workday on Friday. Well, we will see. Okay. That's going to be in Houston in May, the weekend of the 30th. That is an in-person only. We are not accepting speakers virtually for that one because we really want to build that intensity with people in the room. Juneteenth is going to be in Tulsa. I just signed the contract for one of the rooms at OSU Tulsa. The main conference will be Thursday, June 18th. We will meet and greet for something fun on the 17th that evening, Wednesday evening. Friday, June 19th will be the Black Veterans Brunch, and then participating in the Tulsa Juneteenth festivities. I already submitted my thing to sponsor the event that Tulsa is already holding. And as many of you know, we like to dovetail with the events in the town that we're in. And this one just happens to wonderfully fall perfect alignment with our conference. So I'm very excited about that. If you're interested in speaking at either one of these events, go ahead and email your speaker one sheet to queenofcashflowusa@gmail.com. We are going to begin soon our first Saturday of every month classes. We are negotiating the rent for a training center here in Stephenville, and we will still broadcast, but we are going to start doing the in-person, in-depth workshops like we used to do back when we were in Louisiana. Okay. I think most of you know who I am. One of my big things that I really care about with real estate investing is that you invest in debt-free methods. I don't like people to get caught up in debt the way I did when I started real estate investing. Okay. Real estate investing is one of the best ways to grow or maintain wealth in the United States. I'm going to show you 20 plus ways that you can profit from real estate investing, whether or not you ever even buy the house. Okay. So that's very exciting. Let me go ahead and call that slide up now. I've got on here, for those of you who are listening as part of the podcast, I've got 20 plus ways to profit with real estate. Those methods are bird dogging, wholesaling, lease to own, deal making, foreclosure consulting, subject to, virtual assistant, and ancillary services. Okay. I also have another column with foreclosures, short sales, note buying, apartments, commercial, tax liens, private lending, new construction, and ancillary products. The third column has land, flipping, landlording, and leapfrogging. Okay. And again, I am not going to go into depth on all of these simply because of the time. I thought when I scheduled this, in my brain, I forgot that I normally take 3 hours to teach this. And we used to do it before COVID. We used to do it as an in-person workshop, and we'd have, an all-day workshop with scripts and everything. And it was a wonderful fundraiser. We're going to get back to that, but I just did not equate well. I did not manage my time well, and I forgot how long that this training normally is. Okay. For those of you who are listening to me and you're not seeing the slides, I encourage you to go out to YouTube and see the slide, because I've shaded in blue the ones that you can profit from, that are easier to profit from without buying the property. You can profit from almost any method of real estate investing without actually buying the property, but it's easier when it's things like wholesaling, bird dogging, foreclosure consulting, short sales or foreclosures or things like that. Okay. I've also highlighted in the next slide in green the ones that you can profit from, even if you don't have a lot of money to get started. And I'm going to list those again. It's the first column: bird dogging, wholesaling, lease to own, deal making, foreclosure consulting, subject to, which means subject to the original loan. Okay. Virtual assistant, and ancillary services. So now we're going to go and have a little bit of real estate foundation. And basically, the reason I like to start with this is because I want you to understand the why behind what you're doing. I don't want you to just understand the what. I want you to understand why. And so it's very, very sound wisdom to make sure that you diversify when it comes to real estate, right? That's what we want to do. We want to diversify. However, one of the things that we have seen is that real estate is an ethical and repeatable way to build wealth. By repeatable, what I mean is every time you do it the same way, you get the same results. Okay. And it's also something that's accessible. It's something that everybody can do. So some business ventures are very personality dependent. While there's aspects of personality that play into which real estate investment strategy works for you, real estate is really a checklist and anybody can execute it, okay? Especially if you follow the number one rule of real estate investing, which is you make your money when you buy. You make your money when you buy. We're not waiting for appreciation or some future goodness. You make your money when you buy. Uh-oh, where'd my slide go? Uh-oh, let me get it back. Let me check my StreamYard. My computer is going really slow, y'all. I hope you guys can see that, okay? Okay. Yeah, it's there. Okay. Let's go back to it. You make your money when you buy. All right. So if you can get a property, and these are getting harder to find in today's economy, but they're still there. If you can find a property at 70, 80% cost of value, it will make you money. It is a very simple concept, but it is not easy. And those properties can get really hard to find. Okay. So we talked about this a little bit in the last episode. If you have more time than money and you don't have any savings or your credit is no good and you're not really familiar yet with how to profit in real estate, then I recommend people in those situations start with bird dogging and wholesaling. Okay. Bird dogging is basically finding properties. Bird dogging is basically finding properties for other investors. And in some places, you really can make money just by finding the properties. Okay. In other states, you have to be careful about this. And I am not as much of a big fan of bird dogging as I am wholesaling, because there's no guarantee you're going to get paid. Now, when I first got started, I actually paid my bird dogs whether or not I bought the property. I paid them $5 for finding an address that they thought would make a good prospect to a property to buy directly from the owner. And I would give them $25 if they did the research to give me the name, the phone number. And in that market, you could go to the public records and find out how much was owed on it and how much they paid for it. And so you could pull that record, and I would give them $25. It was money well spent, y'all. But then I became a realtor, and then I couldn't do that no more. I couldn't do that anymore. All right. Wholesaling is like bird dogging, but it takes the extra step of actually locking down the purchase price of the property with a contract. So bird dog might find an empty house. They might even reach out and contact the owner. They might do the research to find out who the owner is, contact them, make sure they're the actual owner, make sure that the phone number and the address and all that stuff works. But what a wholesaler would do is take it another step further, get them to agree to sell the house, and then get a contract for the agreed sales price of that house. And then the wholesaler can take that contract and they actually assign it or sell it to another investor. The wholesaler doesn't buy the property. You don't actually close on the property. You get paid for finding the property and negotiating the contract. And so you got to be very careful about this, because you don't want to trip up and get in trouble for practicing real estate brokerage without a license in jurisdictions where that's a thing. Most jurisdictions, it's not a thing, but it is a thing in some. And you want to connect with local investors to make sure you avoid those pitfalls. Tax sales is one of my favorites. It's kind of listed in the investment world right now as not something that's great for 2026, but that's okay. If you already know what you're doing, just keep doing it, okay? The way tax sales work It's because when people don't pay their property tax, the county still needs to pay the cops, the schools. They got to keep the roads running. Okay. And so one of the ways that jurisdictions get that money is they use tax sales, and they make it attractive to investors because you get to possibly own the property if the owner doesn't redeem it. You as an investor pay the tax. If the owner doesn't redeem the tax, there are methods for you to acquire the property and make it yours. Okay. There are so many different ways to do tax sales. I'm going to talk about 3 of them on the next slide. Okay. Tax liens in properties that do tax liens, when you pay the tax for that jurisdiction, you get a lien against that property. If the owner doesn't redeem, if the owner doesn't pay not only for the tax that you paid for them on their behalf, but also the legal fees and any interest that the county or parish is promising you, well, you can get that by foreclosing. You foreclose, so you're basically forcing the sale of the house so that you can get your lien satisfied. And if nobody pays for your lien, if nobody bids high enough to do that, well, now you get the property. What usually happens in this situation is if there's a mortgage from the bank will bid on it and the bank will buy the property rather than let you wipe their primary mortgage. Okay. Another form of this is tax deeds. Okay. And so what you do here is you're actually buying the house. Now you first start off paying the tax. If you bid super high on it, you might pay a high bid premium for the tax, a little extra fee. And, but then you don't actually, you do get the deed to the house, but then you get, I got them mixed up here. Actually, I say that I take that back. I don't know if tax deed states always do a high bid premium. Tax lien states do a high bid premium in states where you bid on a purchase price of the house. So you're going to pay the tax now, but later on, you end up paying the county for more of the house. So that there's nuance there. I'm sorry. I'm not going to go into all the details at this moment. Okay. But there are some nuances there. Let me make sure I cover Louisiana. Tax certificates, you get part ownership. So like a tax lien, I might get 24% interest rate and I get a lien against the property. Well, in order to get my money back, I got to foreclose. In a tax deed state, I'm getting the deed. The property's mine. I can evict after the redemption period. Okay. In a tax certificate, I don't necessarily get the whole property, but I'm not getting a lien. You're bidding in Louisiana. It's the only state that I know that does this. You're bidding how much percent ownership you want of the property. And I used to bid 1% because I just wanted to get it. And the first person to 1% gets it if there's a bidding war. And now I'm kind of like, you know what? Y'all can have that bidding war. I want property. I don't want just interest. I want property. So I tend to bid 100%, but sometimes you end up being 39%, 45%, 55%. I've got one property I'm 4% on, you know? So these are different ways that you can buy into a property, but each one of them has different methods you're going to use to actually acquire that property if the owner doesn't redeem. Okay. New construction is just what it sounds like. It's a new house. Okay. And new house, new commercial center, whatever it is. There's 2 different ways that you can profit with new construction. The first one is not as popular as it was when I started out in real estate investing, because back then realtors weren't always associated with new construction. A lot of new construction back then was sold directly by the builder, you know, or maybe they had a sales team. And what you would do is you would put your deposit on the property and then they would build it out. And as they were building it out, other people got attracted and wanted to buy in, and your equity would rise before you even closed on it. And so you might put $1,000 down, and then by time it's getting close to time for you to close on that property, they're almost done building it. Now the properties are $10,000 to $20,000 higher. Well, you turn around, it's your contract, it's your house. You turn around, you sell your interest in that house to somebody else for the new price and you pocket the spread. Not a bad deal. All right, that's method one. I'm not seeing as much of that anymore as I used to. Excuse me. I'm not seeing as much of this as I used to. I am still seeing it with individual builders who build like one house at a time, one custom home at a time, and in a juicy area where, you know, it's a beautiful piece of land, and by the time it's built out, you can go in and you can really make some good profit there. But in today's landscape, this one's not even bubbling. It's not even on the list. It wasn't even on the list. It wasn't even at the bottom of the list. It wasn't even on the list for 2026. Okay. The other method with new construction is to hold it for rental. And I'm not mad at this if you have the money to buy it, because you're getting a practically new property, so your maintenance costs should be low. A new property is usually very attractive to renters. Okay. And, you know, in some markets, you're going to lose money on this. Okay. But if you can convert it to like corporate housing or something where the market rent might be $1,200 to $1,500 a month, but you turn it into corporate housing and now you're charging $3,000 to $4,000 a month. Well, you can pay that off really quick. And then you can put that, not pay that off, because I don't want you to buy it on debt, but I know somebody who did this in a series of just a couple of years. They ended up with 4 of these properties, and each one of them was putting out $4,000 to $5,000 a month. And what they did was they bought it with a loan. I'm not a big fan of that. They bought each one with a loan, but they used the money from the one that was paid off to pay off the next one, and then pay off the next one, and then pay off the next one. So it's kind of a snowball effect. Okay. Flipping, a lot of us are very familiar with. This is where you buy a discounted property, you fix it up, and you sell it. Okay. It's not as easy as they make it look like it is on YouTube, but it's also not something to be afraid of. Okay. As long as you know how to plan and account for things like Murphy showing up, you're good to go. Now, in flipping, I personally feel like you really need to be connected with a good real estate investment group, a solid investor network. For 2 reasons. One, you need trades that are going to give you investor discounts on actually repairing and fixing things and helping you get through that rehab if you don't have the ability to do it yourself. Okay. And then the other thing that you need is you need an end buyer to buy it, or a investor that you can sell it to them, not quite at retail prices, but at a little bit of a discount, but they would rather you take the brunt of all the work and give them a rent ready house. And so they're willing to accept less profit. Okay. I'm not going to go through my flipping example. If you would like to see this, please go through look at my YouTube channel, and I show you the example of this house. And it's funny because I was in the middle of a real estate class. I think it was like the second or third time I had taught a real estate investing class. And I was going through and analyzing this deal with the person that was taking the class. And I didn't tell them it was my deal. But the whole class came to the conclusion that this investor overbuilt for this neighborhood. Yep, they sure did. And so that's when I realized, hey, instead of joint venturing with people, I need to just do it myself. But yeah, if you want the full story on that with the costs and everything, go out to YouTube at JJ Knows the Way and search for the Real Estate Investing 101. Okay. Foreclosures and foreclosure consulting is not expected to be a big hit in 2026, but it's still something to keep your eye on. Basically, when a lender is not getting paid, they can force the sale of the house to try to get their money back. That's what the foreclosure is, forcing the sale of the house. The sale of the house is actually not the bestest way to profit from a foreclosure. There's 3 phases of foreclosure. The first phase is when they're not making their payments, but the bank hasn't foreclosed yet. That's called pre-foreclosure. It's also called distressed sellers. That's the juiciest time. That's the biggest profit for your trouble. If nobody buys it during that time, maybe there's not enough equity, maybe there's too many repairs needed. The property will be sold at the auction. And then if the bank ends up buying it because nobody comes up to what the bank needs to get their money back, the bank will buy the property at the auction, and then the bank will turn around and try to sell it as real estate owned. Okay. And so you'll see those terms when you go looking to buy. Okay. Be very careful about foreclosure consulting or buying foreclosures. Be careful what terminology you use to advertise that you're looking for these properties, because some terminology can get you in jail if you buy the property and do what the states consider as misleading the client as to how you can help them avoid foreclosure. Short sales is when a property has too much of a loan on it for what it's worth. So when my father died, his property was worth about $31,000. Y'all, he had a $141,000 loan. $141,000. How do you even do that? Like, I remember being so just like, oh my goodness, I need to make sure that the lawyer gets paid. And he was like, oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Well, uh-oh, can y'all not see that? Oh no, y'all haven't been able to see these slides? Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to have to do voiceover. Let me see if I can fix it. Oh, I wonder how long it's been like that. Share screen. All right, well, we're almost done with these anyway. But that's weird because it told me StreamYard was still sharing it. That's so weird. I am so sorry, y'all. Okay. All right. Well, I'll just have to add it to the voiceovers. If I get a chance to edit it, I will. For those of you who are listening as part of the podcast, you get a benefit because well, that's actually not really, sorry. That's not a really good benefit. I was going to say, for once, y'all come out ahead of the people who are watching on YouTube, but I find it's two different audiences. So when I listen to podcasts, I don't turn around and watch them on YouTube because I'm driving a lot. Rural Texas, I don't do that. Okay, I listen. I don't necessarily watch even TV shows. Okay, I think the whole world just heard that.
What?
Go ahead and go, and then get your bed ready. Okay, so short sales. Let me start this one over again. Oh, I can't believe that. I don't know how many slides y'all missed. Oh, let me just flip through them real quick. I'm so sad about that. Let me just flip through them real quick so I have them on this recording, and then I can go back and splice them in with a voiceover. Okay, please. I just don't even understand how that happened. Well, we'll have to figure that out. Thankfully, it's pretty easy it's pretty easy to go back and add these in with a voiceover. Okay, I'm sure it was after this that stopped. Okay, so we were on, we weren't that far. We were on short sales. Okay. All right. Let me just make sure one more time. Yep. Okay. It's there. Okay. So what a short sale is, short sales is when you have a house or a property that you owe more on than the property's worth. So when my dad died, his house was worth, like, I could put it in the market and sell it for about 31, 32, maybe 33 if it was fixed up, but it had roof issues and had some other issues. So maybe about $30,000. That's how much it was worth. The loan against my dad's house was $141,000. And I had been so just trying so hard to make sure that lawyer got his legal fees paid, until I realized that what the lawyer had done was padded all these different things into my dad's house and made it almost impossible for him or anybody in the family to ever actually pay it off. And so guess what ended up happening? Miraculously, some professional ended up getting my dad's house instead of the neighbors and instead of any of us, because it was sold different time than what was notified. That shouldn't even be legal. but there's a lot of shenanigans that happen. But wow, I didn't mean to go down that rabbit trail. Okay. The bottom line is, with a short sale situation, more is owed on the house than what is worth. Okay. More is owed on the house what it's worth. And the short sale is you getting the bank to agree to short how much they will receive to get release that property in full. Okay. All right. Let me go to the next one here. Oh, okay. You can just, okay. All right. Let's get down here. Okay. So landlording, we're all pretty familiar with landlording. And that is where you're renting the, look, if you're going to snuggle, dude, you have to actually get, I have to be able to use the mouse. Okay. You don't fit anymore.
Hang on. Leg.
Oh, I see you've got your bear. Okay. Oh my.
I have a name.
Okay. All right. Now be quiet so I can finish teaching. Okay. Landlording, we're all pretty familiar with. This is where you have a property you own or you control. Owning isn't the same as controlling. And depending on your structure of your lease, you might be leasing a property, but you're allowed to sublet it. Then you can just be a landlord and kind of sandwich the profit there. All right. But landlording is basically where you're renting out a property for someone else, to someone else. And you've got to be really careful with landlording, because I want to take good care of my tenants, but you don't want to allow everything to be an emergency. Okay. And I better not get down on that. Okay. One big thing I want to say about landlording is this bottom sentence here. Avoid the "it will appreciate one day" trap. Okay. Remember, we got to make our money when we buy. A lot of people who buy rental property, they're so excited to break even or maybe make $100 of cash flow every month that they don't realize that 1 month of vacancy can erase all the profit they had for 2 years, depending on the size of that mortgage payment. Okay. So you want to make sure that you are carefully accounting, and personally, if you can find markets where you can invest lower cost real estate, where you can just invest it without having to go into debt, that's what I would prefer you do. If you want to be a landlord, I encourage you to go out to mrlandlord.com and Bigger Pockets. Okay. Those are two great resources for learning how to do landlording. Okay. You just like in any other real estate venture, you want to have those relationships with other investors and with the trades to help make your costs of running that property and renting it out more effective. Okay. Because it's too easy to pay $500 for a plumbing call here and $600 for an electric call there. And then you've basically cut yourself out of any profit that you would have had. And people don't tend to account for that. Okay. So you want to make sure you account for it. All right. Okay. Let's see. All right. Leapfrogging. This one's a little tough right now. This is a term I coined way back when, which is back when so I don't think anybody has this book anymore. I do not have it on Amazon. I don't even have a copy anymore. I'm sure I've got an electronic copy in an old disc somewhere. But back when I was like, oh yeah, we're making all this money and it's great, and we've got all these houses daisy chained together, I coined this term to basically be, oops, oh no, what just happened? It did it again. Okay, I think my computer's trying to tell me it's time to go. But this is the last one, though.
You said it was last two, and it took two on the other.
Well, it was the topics. I shouldn't have said the last two slides. I did. But I meant the topics. Leapfrogging is the last topic. Hold on. Let me go back here and show. I can't do it with your head in the way.
My head's not in the way.
I can't see the screen. I got to be able to see the screen.
There you go.
You can't do that to me if you want to stay here, sweet boo. And because that's probably what happened when the computer did that last time. That's probably what happened.
What?
When remember when it cut out my presentation?
Mm-hmm.
That's probably why. Oh, I don't know what it's doing. Okay. Cancel. That's probably why the screen went black, is because it did something and it kicked me out of my presentation. Okay. And so that's probably what happened. So hopefully now I got to get back in there and share it so we don't have the same thing happen again. All right, let's go back in here and share it. Yeah. There we go. Whew. The browser can't access your screen. Oh no, why? Share. Nope. It's saying nobody, nope. All right, y'all. Well, it looks like we're not gonna be able to do this because it's not letting me bring the slide back. But I will just kind of close. There was only one other topic, and that was creative financing, which we spoke about at length today. So creative financing strategies are ways to buy property without going through a traditional bank. They include things like rent to own, lease options, taking over somebody else's loan. Yes, people who need to move in a hurry will let you simply just take over their loan. Things like that are called creative financing strategies. Almost anything you can come up with, as long as it's legal, is something you can do. Okay. Commercial right now is not a really great investment because in most markets, apartments and land aren't doing very well. Where I live, they are doing well, but that may not be your situation. So that's a region by region and city by city dependent. And then land is also a great way to make money in real estate, but it's slow money. Okay. And unfortunately, for many investors, one of the reasons that you're trying to, let me just put it back on me. I don't know what happened to my slides. But one of the reasons that you are trying to get into real estate investing in the first place is so you can make money, not lose money. Okay. So you're trying to make money, not lose money. And so when you buy land, unless you're buying it in cash and unless you have something to do with it, it's just sitting there. And it kills me when people are like, oh, yeah, I'm going to pay on this land for 20 years. And when I retire from the Air Force, I'll have this beautiful piece of land. You don't know where you're going to want to live 20 years from now. Now, if you have the money to buy a land, I'm not saying don't buy it, but that cash flow for over 20 years, you could have been doing something else with that money that might be a better fit and more profitable. Okay. So I'm really hesitant on people who buy land with payments, unless, I'm really hesitant on that, unless you can use it to dwell on while you're paying for it. I'm just not a big fan of that because to me, the only real investment that you should be paying on is the one you're living in. Okay. So, your house that you're in is an investment, but you're going to have a mortgage a lot of times. Okay. Sorry, I'm a little off kilter because my slides now. But let's see. I think that's everything. Just make sure that when you're investing in real estate, you make your money when you buy. Okay. Don't get lured into these false traps of other people's money and daisy chaining properties together and try to do all these really cool, sexy, esoteric strategies. All right. Do look at the math and make sure the math works. And if the math is overwhelming to you, connect with someone like me. You can go to our group coaching calls every first Tuesday. You can submit questions anytime and I'll answer them when I have pockets of time and send you back a video with your answer. Like, get somebody in there on your corner, on your side to help you do this without falling into the pitfalls. There's a lot of places that are outstretched us. Okay. When this one's Wallace Wattles. When Wallace Wattles wrote The Science of Getting Rich, okay, when he wrote The Science of Getting Rich, he talked about how it's probably too late for you to make money in the airplane or he wrote that it's probably too late for you to make money in steel because all the Rockefellers and all the people who did the steel industry have already done it. It's probably too late for you to profit from the railroad. This is what this guy wrote. He wrote The Science of Getting Rich 100 years ago, right? He said, but there's this newfangled thing called the aeroplane, and it's projected that this aeroplane is going to even be able to fly all over the world. That's the industry for you to start getting into, okay? There are industries right now. We've got crypto. Nobody really understands it. Very few people understand it. We've got AI. Very few people understand it. Those are blossoming new technologies that you could learn about. But let me tell you something that was around when he wrote that book, and something that's still around today, and it's going to be around until Jesus remakes the earth, and that is real estate investing. So if you get a little overwhelmed with all the AI crazy stuff, well, guess what? People who are running AI programs, they need a place to live. People who are running, the massive data centers and stuff like that, they need land to rent on. They need land to buy. You can be proactive. You can be and figure out where the land is. You can be proactive and figure out where you want to, where the towns are growing, where the colleges are up leveling, and build apartments or build single family homes. Or you can start quietly going and tax sales in small markets where people aren't really paying you much mind and the big investors haven't gotten there yet. You can go in there and you can make some money. Real estate has been here for ages. It will continue to be here for a long time. Now, if Jesus come back tomorrow, all bets are off, because you got about 7 years left, right? But real estate has been here for a long time. And if you're overwhelmed with other ways to make money, don't miss out on this one. Okay? Maybe everybody's not going to be an AI programmer here, right? You know, I really like Justin Burns' AI class. If you're on my mailing list, he's launching another summit next week. So I want to send you out something on that. You know, phenomenal class, because I don't know that AI is going to rule the world, but people who run AI definitely going to rule the world, right? And I want to be one of them. I want to learn. I want my children to be them. If the Lord delays is coming, I want my children to be in that. All right. But maybe that's not your thing. But real estate could be your thing. People are always going to need a place to live. Now we can talk about population and blah, 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 blah. We can talk about those things and how to do it the right way, but it's something you can do. Something you already understand. And the math and the extra, like if learning how to do AI is from here to here for you, well, you're already familiar with real estate. Okay. So real estate is just a little jump up. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and close out for today. If you're listening to me as part of the Ladies of Wealth podcast, I want to thank you for listening to this episode. I encourage you to go back to the previous 2 episodes where we talked about top 5 ways to make money in real estate in 2026. And if you are listening live and you had that big blank of slides that I didn't realize weren't showing, then I encourage you to go watch it when we re-release it on YouTube as a podcast, because I'm going to go and splice in the slides. And I'm going to do the voiceover with the slides so you'll have the full picture. Okay. But thank you. I'm actually shocked so many of y'all are still on, because I was like, when I saw that big old black screen, I was like, oh no, I lost everybody. But you're still here, and I appreciate you so much. I hope this has been a blessing for you. And I hope that you all will take care and be blessed.